Hi there, folks. I'm making a short video to just go over some review of the Essay1 assignment and a little bit about formatting, which I assume you guys are already pretty familiar with, MLA style formatting and documentation. And then I'm going to show you a new assignment. It's an extra credit assignment that I just created to possibly facilitate you guys giving each other feedback on your planning. I extended the deadline on the planning and development assignment to the end of the day tomorrow, Saturday, for you guys to get that submitted. And then I created an online discussion in Canvas for you guys to give each other some feedback on that work that you did. Okay, but let me start with Essay1. Just a couple things I want to point out about it. Okay, so as I said in class, your purpose in this assignment is not to make an argument about gun control or immigration reform or criminal justice reform or doping in sports. Okay, you're not making an argument about any of those topics, the one that you picked for this essay. For this essay, you're looking at somebody else's arguments, the two articles that I assigned to you, that you selected from those that I provided. You're going to take a look at those and break them down the way we did Tougher Grading Better for Students, to look at the way those authors have constructed their arguments, and ultimately to make an evaluation about whether or not they've done a good job. Okay? So their job, just like your job when you're writing an argument, is to persuade their audience. And I guess ultimately, your judgment on those articles will boil down to whether or not you find that they've been successful in persuading an audience. And that's whether or not you personally have been persuaded by their argument, but whether or not you think that they've made a strong argument by looking at the way they've put it together, looking at the facts that they've presented in support of their argument, looking at the inferences that readers are intended to draw from those facts in order to accept the argument, looking at the way that the authors have presented and answered opposing viewpoints, which, as you know, is super important to the effectiveness of an argument. Okay, so that's what all of that stuff says. All right. And then another key aspect of this argument is, of this assignment, is to minimize summary. You're going to have some summary in your essay. There's going to be spots in your essay where you're rephrasing the ideas from the articles. You're putting them in your own words. But the whole purpose of the essay is not for you to represent the ideas in the articles. The purpose of the essay is for you to represent some of the main points from the articles, which you can present in summary, paraphrase, or direct quote, and then to analyze them, to analyze and evaluate them. Okay, so that's key. And then, as I was just saying, you're not making your own argument. That's not your job here as a writer for this particular assignment. All right, and regarding sources, as I said, you're going to be referencing at least 3 articles. Essentially, you'll be working with 3 articles, the 2 that you picked from those I provided, and then a third one that you find on your own that's no older than 6. Okay, that third one can be anything, right? But it shouldn't be more than 6 years old. Okay, pre-writing steps, we already picked a topic, and you already picked your articles. Okay. I've been talking about being able to identify the main arguments in each of the articles. You can take a look at the author and find out a little bit about that person, what their background is. Maybe they have a particular set of politics that helps to explain why they're making the argument that they're making. And then in step 7 here, you're given some suggestions for how to approach your analysis. All right, I call those points of analysis. So I talk about the process here in terms of identifying points of argument in the articles, those reasons that the authors of the articles you're analyzing give to support their argument. Those are specific points of argument that they provide. And then you will have points of analysis, approaches that you take to analyzing their points of argument. And one way you can do that is you can look at the reasons that they've given and determine their validity. Do you think that they're valid reasons to give in support of the argument? For example, with doping in sports, okay, the main points of argument in that debate usually have to do with fairness, right? Is it fair in organized sport for some athletes to use performance-enhancing drugs to boost their performance? Is that fair? Is it healthy for them to do that? Okay. And you know, some of the arguments in favor pro-doping in sports, they say that it'll make sports more entertaining to watch. Well, I mean, I would wonder whether that's a really valid reason, whether that particular benefit, potential benefit of using performance-enhancing drugs or allowing them to be used really offsets the negatives. And if the author has addressed those opposing viewpoints, okay? And that brings us down to this one. Do the authors effectively deal with opposing viewpoints? If not, that's a weakness in that argument that you should point out as somebody analyzing and evaluating it. And then this one right here, this is what we were practicing in Tougher Grading Better for Students. And this is really the main thing that you should be doing, is pulling the facts from the articles that the authors present to support their arguments, identifying what inferences are intended, and then determining whether or not those are reasonable and whether or not they're well enough supported by the facts. Okay, and that will lead you to your thesis, which is your overall evaluation of the argument's effectiveness. Okay, and then there's that template that I pointed out to you before that you can use or not. You don't have to. And then the other main thing I wanted to point out to you in these instructions in the assignment sheet is this one right here. Okay, you can focus your analysis in a couple of ways. You don't have to give equal attention to both of the two articles that I assigned, right? So there are two parts here. One is the focus that you give to the articles, and the other is how you use the third source, which I'll come to in a minute. All right, they're separate but related aspects of this assignment. You can focus on one of the assigned articles if you want, and then just use the other two, the second one that you picked from those I provided, and then the third one you found on your own, to help support the points of analysis you're making about the one. Or you can focus equal attention on both of the assigned articles and then use the third one to support the points you make about the two that you're analyzing more closely. Okay, one way to use the third article, if you find an argument that's actually good, because pro tip, I haven't provided you with articles that are perfect. They all have weaknesses for you to notice. All right. But perhaps the third one you find is really making a good argument. So you can use that as an example against which you analyze the other two, right? Or maybe the third one presents opposing viewpoints that one or both of the two that you picked from those I provided ignore. That's another way you can use the third one. And really you could use the third one to help you develop your introduction, to provide you with background information. Because remember, I said the third one that you find doesn't have to be making an argument. It can be anything, okay? It can just be a report on the topic, or, you know, it can be a video about the topic that you watch, okay? So there are multiple ways to use that third article and a couple of different approaches that you can take to focusing your analysis. All right, and then these are some suggestions for how to construct your essay, what kind of stuff should be in it. All right, and then the final draft requirements are here and also in Canvas in the assignment that you'll submit your final draft to. All of these items appear there as well. Alrighty, so that's that. But still, if you have any questions while you're working through this, you know, get a hold of me and ask them. And then real quick here, this is just an example research paper that I use to review the basics of MLA formatting and documentation. So this is how your paper should look in the final draft that you submit. It should have a header right here with your last name and the page number in it. It should have a heading that looks like this and is formatted this way. And notice the entire document is double spaced. All right? There's no extra line space between the heading and the title. This is the title. It's a long title. It's got a colon, as all academic titles should. I'm just kidding. You can have a short title. But there's no extra line space between the title and the first sentence of the first paragraph. It's all double spaced. There's no extra line space between paragraphs. It's all double spaced here. And there's 1-inch margins all around, okay? And then this is a block quote, as I'm sure most of you recognize. And you format a direct quote this way. That's the exact words of the source when they exceed 4 lines of regular typed text. So for example, if this was a direct quote and you're typing, it's a direct quote, and you get to the end of the 4th line, then you want to block it. You want to put it like this in a block where you indent the whole thing 5 spaces. All right, so that's formatting. Notice that the paragraphs begin with an indent, a 5-space indent that shows paragraph breaks. You don't want to type your academic papers in block paragraphs like you do for a business letter. Okay, different. What else? The works cited page. So your works cited page will have at least 3 sources on it. Okay, the 2 articles that I assigned to you and the 3rd one you found on your own. And it should be formatted this way in a hanging indent. That's what this is called, where the first line of the entry goes to the margin, and then subsequent lines that go with that entry. This is all the same source. This is all information about this source here, American Management Association. But all of this stuff is indented 5 spaces. And you can see why by just looking at it. The hanging indent helps us distinguish between information for different sources. Like this is all Adam Scott, or Scott Adams, starts with his last name, right? And then the next source starts here. And then the next one starts here. And we can tell because it's formatted this way. And again, this is all double spaced, no extra space between your source entries, no bullet point, no bullets, no numbers, okay? Everything's double spaced. All right, let's see, a couple more things just to point out. As you guys probably know, this is a parenthetical reference, or some people refer to that as an in-text citation. That's the same thing. And that's the page number of the source, right? Here's an in-text citation with just the author's name in it. There's no page number because there are no pages. Okay, this is an internet source, which isn't paginated. It comes from this website, PC World. All right, and this dude, Daniel Tynan, has written an article that he posted on PC World, but there aren't any pages. Oh, wait a minute, I'm wrong. Okay, this is this is the one that goes with Flynn. But again, this is a website, okay, put up by the ePolicy Institute. So that's why there are no page numbers in this parenthetical reference, just an author's name, because there aren't any page numbers to give, so you can't give them. Let's see. Up here in the block quote, these are page numbers. So this is a printed article, right? But there's no author's name in this parenthetical reference because the author's already mentioned up here. You don't need to mention the author's name twice. It's clear that this is from Lane because the Lane is mentioned up here. All right. right. Yeah, so I'll talk more about this in class later, but these are ellipses. These indicate something that you have omitted from a direct quote, something that's in the direct quote that you left out when you quoted it. Let me see if I can find square brackets. Ah, there's the square brackets. This is for something you've added to a direct quote. There's another set of ellipses right there. Okay, so I think that's all I want to touch on right now. We'll talk more about this when we're doing a more intensive research project. This one's not that intensive. Okay, let's see what else I want to show you guys. Oh yeah, and then the last thing I want to show you in this recording is this item right here that I just created. No, not that one, this one. All right, so this is an extra credit activity. It's optional, you don't have to do it, all right? But if you do it, you can get 5 extra credit points for doing it. And it's pretty self-explanatory, okay? It's an opportunity for you guys to get and give feedback on the planning work that you will have done. Okay, since we couldn't really get to this in class, this is an opportunity for you guys to do this work, to give each other feedback on your introduction, all right? So it involves students posting their rough draft of an introduction so that their classmates can give them feedback on it. All right, also in here, you guys can discuss the articles you picked and why. I heard a little bit of that going on in class today, but you can do more of that here if you want. And discuss the main points of argument in those articles. What are the important points of argument that they present in defense of their overall argument? All right, you guys can post and get feedback on your thesis statement in progress. Get some feedback on that. And your outline, okay? So these are all things that you guys can post here and get feedback from your classmates on, if you want. It's not required. Okay, oops, I have to fix that. That's not you guys, that's some other section from before. All right, so I'll fix that. And if you want extra credit on this, it's due September 21st, because remember your rough draft is due for peer review on the 23rd. All right, and again, if you run into any trouble doing this peer review, getting it submitted, okay, email me. Once everybody submits their rough draft, then I go in and I assign peer review. All right, and I can't do that if you haven't submitted a rough draft. So it's important that everybody submit their rough draft on time. Even if it's not perfect, okay, just submit what you have. It should be at least a couple pages. All right, and then you can get feedback on that. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stop now. And once again, if you have any questions, you gotta get a hold of me. All right, I hope you have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.